Hey guys, Bugcat7 here. Okay, it is Friday, August 30th, 2019, and I want to thank you for visiting the Stonewall Research channel here on YouTube. Thank you very much. I really do appreciate it. Alrighty then, we're going to continue in this video series looking into what ancient man could have really known in the past. And we certainly know that they had a high level of understanding of mathematics, astronomy, engineering, construction, hydrology, etc., on and on, even surgeries, medicine, chemical combinations, metals, all sorts of things. So they seem to have some pretty advanced knowledge in some areas, and certainly one of them, if it was all of those, it certainly could be in botany and horticulture, and even beyond that, okay, into actual living creatures themselves. So I'm putting that out there, and I'm sort of working up the evidence here into something big. But we're going to take a look at the genetic disc today in accordance with following along this thread. But if you're new and you don't know, I just did 2 videos on the mysterious origins of corn. I know a lot of people are going to just pass it by and be like, yeah, corn. No. It's a serious mystery how people 80,000 years ago were somehow able to develop corn. It just seems like genetic engineering to the experts, etc. They can't figure it out, okay? So, look, if we were to try to attempt to do that today, okay, with some plan or something like that had prospects, okay, and make it into some kind of superfood for everybody to eat, it would take tens of millions and hundreds of millions of dollars in research and development and time and everything else. So just how did they do it? So, and if we can do the same thing today, we're capable of doing it. Why haven't they come up with some super plant food, genetically engineered food? So, look, it's just evidence that seems to suggest, circumstantial evidence that seems to suggest that there could have been some time in the past where a greater knowledge of these particular disciplines actually was evolved to an extent that beyond capabilities of our own. So that's of a curiosity to anybody, I would imagine. All right, so we're continuing along in that thread, and this video is going to go over the genetic disc. And I'm sure you've heard of it. It's of Klaus Dona fame, of, the spiritual archaeologist who wrote a lot of books and collected all these artifacts, these sort of arts, these out-of-place artifacts, and these unexplained artifacts from all over the world. And this is one of the artifacts. Apparently, it doesn't have much of a provenance at all. And here within lies the whole thing about it, but we're going to discuss that after we go over a mainstream article that we're going to take, or at least in support of what apparently has been said about the item here. But we're going to take a hard look at it, and this is something that I've often done on my channel. The past subscribers should know that would tell you that, I take these mainstream or whoever supports mainstream articles and take a thorough look at them. I just don't read them and say, oh, okay. We're going to look deeply into it, as I often do, and rip it apart if I can, and show you where the issues lie with their thinking and what they're presenting. And that's why I say this is a type 2 hoax. This is my own categorization of it. All right, so you have the type 1 hoax, where they have actual evidence, improved documents, paper trail, eyewitness accounts, expert assessment, whatever it is that clearly identify the thing as a hoax, okay, that anybody could see. So that's a type 1 hoax, right? And this with the genetic disc seems to be of the type 2 variety, which is basically the unexplained. So if something's unexplained, it could be that, it's a hoax, or it could be that aliens did it, or whatever it is. See, that's how they discredit it immediately by saying, well, aliens did it or whatever. But we're going to look hard at some things in here, some things that I can bring to your attention that I think is relevant to the whole thing. And again, I apologize for it's probably going to be bifurcated in part 1 and part 2, but please do watch both parts because it's going to be some interesting stuff in here. And you're going to see where I take apart what they're saying about this, and we have to look at it rationally, okay, instead of from the one side or the other. But we'll see what they're talking about here. So in any case, if you do look at, put in a search for the genetic disc, the first thing you come up with is this archaeological fantasies site and this article about the genetic disc, okay? So I guess this guy runs this. It says, where archaeology and reality meet. Very cute, okay? So this site contains a lot of type 1 and type 2 hoaxes. And we're going to look at one of those, and that's the genetic disc, this type 2 hoax, as I say, because, basically it's not a hoax. It's just they're calling it that because there's no way to explain it. And, the one academic that actually looked at the thing claimed it was a fake. But, there's questions about that as well we'll talk about. But let's get into it a little bit and see what kind of misinformation is getting put out there about something like this, okay? So, even before we start into the thing, look, I don't know why they call it the genetic disc. It really doesn't show, DNA or, molecules or anything like that. It just shows the sort of progressive stages of the fetus from zygote into, fully developed fetus and the sexual organs of. But what you can do is sort of make a note of the stylizations on this thing, okay? So it's a bi-disc front and back, or have these carvings in supposed lyddite. And we're going to look at what he says about that too. But in any case, he put up a post with this before, but then he updated it after he spoke to the actual expert who took a look at the thing or whatever. And, she claims whatever she claims, but we'll get into it. Okay, he says, in an earlier version of this post, I mentioned that I had been unsuccessful at contacting Dr. Vera M.F. Hammer to get her comments on the genetic disc. After this post was published and through the wonders of Twitter, I was able to get in contact with her, and she gave me some great insights into her involvement with the disc. Also, I've learned a bit about mineralogy and the difference between chert and schist, and so have changed parts of the post due to this new information. I will note the areas that have been changed with an updated tag. Thanks again to Dr. Hammer and to Edward Habsburg, who connected us. The red flags on this one just fly through the air. Just about nothing about this quote-unquote artifact makes sense. Honestly, it's a little hard to know where to start here with this one. I guess the description is in order. Okay, so whatever the case, this guy's he doesn't like this. I think people who do these kind of things have sort of a, necrophobic personality, just paranoid that something might not be right about the past. Okay, the disc is said to be made out of lyddite and measures 22 centimeters in diameter and weighs 2 kilograms. It's apparently solid black in color and shaped like a bi-disc. It's carved on both faces and has random images carved on it depicting what some are calling the cycle of life, quote unquote. I can't find any official origin story for the disc. Well, see, right there, you automatically sort of negate any claim of hoax, because if you don't know one way or another, you can't claim anything about it. So it's up for discussion. I hate to tell you that. That's how logic works and philosophy works, okay? You can't just say, if there's no official origin of where it comes from, or nobody has any idea of where it came from, where the actual place it came from, it's up for discussion, okay? So let's see what else he says about this. I can cobble together from websites that focus on the disc is only that it was found somewhere in Colombia by a gentleman named Jamie Gutierrez Lega, who is a well-known industrial designer in Colombia, yes, and also a collector, and I heard also a professor. Okay, so if you're an industrial designer, you might collect these things and have no idea where they came from. It just, people present you with these things, and it went through a dozen people before it got to you. All right, and it was taken out of the jungles there in Colombia. So who knows? So all the claims against it don't wash. All right, not enough data there to say negative or positive. All right, so at some point after it was found, it was taken to the Museum of Natural Sciences of Vienna, Austria, and reportedly studied by Dr. Vera M.F. Hammer. She somehow managed to date the stone and apparently signed it to the pre-Columbia Muisca culture. And if you look up the Muisca culture and look at their art, it doesn't seem to be the same as what's on this disc here, but we'll get into that a little bit because I think I found something that